when you're learning about St. Patrick's Day. Now, St. Patrick's Day has come and gone, all right? But I'm still kind of want to learn about the holiday. I still kind of like don't really understand it, or like I don't know. I might not be like the biggest St. Patrick's Day like understander, or like I don't particularly like I'm huge on the holiday. You know what I mean? I enjoy the green, and I enjoy like the celebration aspect of it. You know what I'm saying? But I just kind of want to go a little bit deeper into it and kind of like just have fun with it, just learn a little bit about it. You know what I'm saying? So first things first, we're gonna look at some facts, and then we're gonna kind of I don't know, go a little deeper into the like I guess the background of it or whatnot. So, anyways, so Saint Patrick, okay, who this whole day is based around, wasn't Irish. He was British. That's kind of a. Is that not like a crazy thing to admit? He wasn't Irish, but isn't like St. Patrick's Day is kind of like an Irish holiday. That's kind of crazy. Okay, so the Chicago River is dyed green annually. I have seen that. So apparently it's like some sort of like it's like this eco-friendly dye that they add to the river, and it takes like only a couple minutes to like dye the whole Chicago River green, and it only lasts like a few hours. So let me think. Is it like I think I saw something about this. It's like some sort of orange powder, and I think plumbers used to use it for like testing the water or like looking at stuff. And then one day somebody was like, "Oh, hey, let's dye the whole Chicago River green." And they were like, "Brilliant. That is a brilliant idea. Let's do that." So as long as it, you know what I mean, it's eco-friendly, it's fun. I like the color of it. I like it. I think that's cool. Leprechauns are part of Irish folklore. That's isn't I thought that was kind of like a given. I don't know how much of a. All right, whatever. You know what? We're gonna stop talking about that. Saint Patrick used the shamrock to explain the Holy Trinity. Ah, I see. So it's a religious aspect to it. I kind of like that. That's nice. But what happens when he comes across the four-leaf shamrock or four-leaf clover? You know what I'm saying? That's kind of like, I guess that's the way we're thinking about it, or maybe that's what makes it lucky, or that's what makes something lucky to find or rare to find, I guess. And the first St. Patrick's Day parade was in America, not Ireland. I mean, what can I say? America, we just celebrate stuff, you know what I mean? St. Patrick's Day, a British guy, we celebrate every year, you know what I mean? With green, with well, that's kind of interesting. But is it popular in Ireland? Is it more popular in America or in Ireland? I don't know. Maybe we'll ask. Maybe we'll figure it out later. So, born in Roman Britain, St. Patrick was kidnapped and brought to Ireland as a slave at age 16. Oh my gosh. Where he later dedicated his life to converting the Irish to Christianity. That is wild. That is wild. He was kidnapped. Now they don't specifically say who kidnapped him, but because he was brought to Ireland, it could be insinuated that the Irish did that. I don't know. You know, we're just not going to touch that. I don't want to talk about that. At age 16 is wild. But I mean, I guess like back in the day, you know what I mean? They didn't have like they didn't have like 90-year lifespans, right? They like lived until they were like 30, 40, you know what I mean? Like there was death upon them. So you know, that is crazy. That is wild, but it is what it is. Okay. Since 1962, Chicago has dyed its namesake river green every St. Patrick's Day. A tradition that started with the utilitarian purpose of tracing unauthorized sewage. Ah, I see. So that's what it was. Like the people that were like down in the sewers, they were trying to figure out like what was in there, what was supposed to be in there, what wasn't supposed to be in there, and they used that dye as a way to like look throughout the river and be like, oh snap, that's not supposed to be there. And then somebody was like, let's dye the whole river green, and everybody was like, yeah, that's cool. I like that. Whoever came up with that idea, 10 out of 10 idea. So leprechauns are mischievous creatures associated with luck and treasure, are a part of Irish folklore, likely stemming from Celtic beliefs in fairies. That's interesting. I wonder how much of like all of this like folklore or like all of this stuff like for like fairies and for like demons and creatures and whatnot. Like I wonder how much of that is kind of like made up or how much of it is like maybe based in reality, but then we kind of like unfortunately killed them all. You know what I'm saying? So how would that work? I don't know. But I often think about like how much of the creatures that we make up are like based on some sort of reality, you know, or whatnot. So legend has it that St. Patrick used the 3 leaves of a shamrock to explain the concept of the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit to the Irish people. I mean, that's a pretty good example, right? I don't think that's terrible. Okay. The first St. Patrick's Day parade was in America, not Ireland. While St. Patrick's Day is celebrated in Ireland, the first St. Patrick's Day parade currently on record was held in St. Augustine, Florida in 1601. Wow. That is wild. Man, that is Florida, really. They were the originators of St. Patrick's Day. That's crazy. That's crazy. 1601. How do they even fact check that? They have like records back in there had to have been like some sort of stone carved for it. 1601? That is crazy. Well, hey, you know what I mean? Shout out to Florida. Shout out to Florida for doing St. Patrick's Day right, you know what I mean? All right. St. Patrick's Day commemorates St. Patrick and the arrival of Christianity in Ireland, and by extension celebrates the heritage and culture of the Irish in general. Celebrations generally involve public parades, festivals, and the wearing of green attire or shamrocks. Now there is another word on here, but since I do not know how to pronounce it, I will be skipping over it. Why was St. Patrick kidnapped? Ooh. Do we really want to go down this rabbit hole? And why not? Why was he kidnapped? Tell me. So, he was in captivity for 6 years and then escaped and returned as a Christian missionary. Wow, okay. That's really all that they know, or that they're telling us, you know what I mean? But okay. I don't know what else is there. It says the color that St. Patrick wore was actually blue, but the color that people originally This is so it was actually blue, not green, but they just chose green instead. It was actually blue, and even some Irish flags have blue in them. That's interesting. Yeah, imagine if like the American flag were like other colors, like purple, green, and yellow. You know what I'm saying? Like, but then we changed it. We rebranded it. I don't know. It's crazy how like things change. You know what I mean? Like it's like that game of telephone where it's like you say one thing to somebody and then it trickles down the line and it becomes something else entirely, you know? So it used to be blue that was like associated with St. Patrick's Day or St. Patrick himself, and then they transitioned it to green somehow, some way. So legend has it that St. Patrick died on March 17th, and people in Ireland started observing a feast day on March 17th in celebration around the 9th or 10th century, and they would have parades in America. So we're really celebrating this man's death, but in like a happy way. Interesting. Let's see, what else is there? Okay, here we go. Despite being venerated as a saint, St. Patrick was never officially canonized by the Catholic Church, as the formal process didn't exist during his lifetime. But they can't offer him like a... That's not... They could definitely give him one now, like kind of like a legendary, or like kind of like a... like an after death saintship. Like that's definitely possible. Okay, let's see what else is there. St. Patrick's legacy is built on literacy, as he established schools and monasteries promoting learning and knowledge. Oh, that's nice. That's cute. That's really sweet. In Irish folklore, if you catch a leprechaun, he might offer you 3 wishes or reveal the location of his pot of gold. But he's also known for being tricky and may try to escape without granting any rewards. So it's literally like you can catch them, and then they're treating him like a genie. Like there's probably some sort of connection there. Offer a pot of gold. Okay. They are said to guard a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow. I kind of want a little bit more like of a deep dive into where like the leprechaun came from, but it just kind of like, it's more so kind of like the bland stuff, kind of like, oh, they're small, they have a pot of gold, they're tricky, they're linked to shoemaking and said to be skilled craftsmen. All right. Okay, so St. Patrick's Day food is corned beef and cabbage, Irish stew, shepherd's pie, Irish soda bread, and coal cannon. And then side drinks like Irish coffee and Guinness. Yeah, that doesn't sound too... I mean, I understand that's like the traditional, but that doesn't sound too cool to me. But come to think of it, I've never really had corned beef and cabbage, or Irish stew, or shepherd's pie, or Irish soda bread. Soda bread? That sounds pretty cool. Wait, I want to learn more about Irish soda bread. Wait, give me Irish soda bread. Okay, we'll come back to Irish soda bread. Patrick baptized thousands of Irish and lived to see some of the Ireland's future leaders become monks and nuns instead. Patrick did not drive the snakes out of Ireland, since there were no snakes on the island to drive out. Well, what kind of... Alright. What kind of a fact is that? Is just like... I could make a fact... That is like... What is that? That makes no sense. Why did they put that in there? This is a Baylor University... like news thing. They were like, the surprising St. Patrick fact reveals facts. And it's just literally like, St. Patrick did not drive the snakes out of Ireland, since there were no snakes on the island to drive out. Yeah. That's not a fact. They're just like pointing something out that like, that, okay, maybe it's a fact, but it's like, it's a useless fact. Like that's nothing. That's like me being like, okay, that's like me saying like, okay, I'm like in New York City, and then I say something like, oh yeah, by the way, I killed like 1,500 killer robot. No, it's like I pushed out 1,500 killer robots, but hey, I didn't actually do it because there were no killer robots. Like, what? That doesn't make any sense. It's like, okay, no, that was a bad analogy. That was a bad thing. Well, like, what's a better one I could do? It's like, oh, I didn't. I don't know what's it called. I didn't sit on a beach in. Oh man, why am I blanking on this? Okay, it's like saying I didn't kill a cockroach in my house because there was no cockroach in my house. Like, do you see what I'm saying? It's like I'm just giving useless facts. Like, what kind of thing is this? Like, Patrick did not drive the snakes out of Ireland. Okay, since there were no snakes on the island to drive out. Yeah, what? That's not a fact. They're just saying that like he didn't do something because there was nothing to do about that. Like, that makes absolutely no sense, and I don't care. Like, I don't understand why they put that into this thing. He didn't drive out snakes in Ireland because there were no snakes on the island to drive out. Yeah, of course. Like, dude, that dude, that makes no sense. Why would they put that in this like fact thing? That's not a fact. They're just saying stuff now. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't. Oh, this is going to be great. This is brilliant. We're going to make a fun fact about St. Patrick, about what he didn't do because he couldn't do it. What? Like, does that make any sense? Real talk, does that make any sense? Hey, dude, I didn't cook a horse because I don't have a horse to cook. Fun fact about me. Like, does anybody, like, not see how, like, stupid that is? That makes no sense. Dude, that's like, okay. Dude, that's like if I posted, like, on a website or if I was like, fun facts about me and my podcast. You know what? I didn't talk to, who's like a big, like, person I could talk. Like, I didn't have Jeff Bezos on my podcast because I don't know Jeff Bezos. Fun fact about the Win Your podcast, I didn't have Jeff Bezos on this podcast because Jeff Bezos doesn't know about this podcast, everybody. Fun fact. Like, how is that not stupid? Why did they put that in this article? Why is it hold on, dude, I gotta see this in full because that is not a fact. That is not a fact. That is just them putting stuff in there. Patrick did not drive the snakes. I mean, I guess it's like a correction, right? Like, is that not like a... Like, okay. It would be one thing if that was like, oh, actually, people think that he drove the snakes out of Ireland. But then they're just like, but that's not true. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the snakes were taken out a long time ago. That's a fact. Like, if they're pointing out something else. So the part that I read was only like a partial of the fact. So they're just basically correcting history. They're like, St. Patrick, if the basic knowledge of somebody was like, oh, St. Patrick drove the snakes out of Ireland, if that's like common knowledge, then it's like, actually that didn't happen because the snakes weren't on the island. Then that's a fact. That's the fact. The fact that, but it's the point that, like, they didn't even... That makes no sense to me. It's just... Anyways, the rest of the thing says, the last ice age kept the sensitive cold-blooded reptiles from most parts of Europe, and when the earth began to warm up, they took advantage of ice bridges to reach places such as England. However, there was no ice bridge between Britain and Ireland, so the snakes could not settle in the Emerald Isle. Ireland thus joined the ranks of Iceland, Greenland, New Zealand, and Antarctica, and being perpetually snake-free. But that's not... So that's the fact. The fact is that there were no snakes on the island. That's just like a plain old fact. Now, I don't know anybody in the history of anybody I've ever met or I've ever talked to or I've ever known. It is not like a common knowledge thing that, like, St. Patrick drove snakes out of Ireland. I don't even know why they had to put his name into this. It's like, it makes no sense. I understand the fact that they're pointing out here, but it's so stupid. It's so absurd. I still can't get over it. It's just like, Patrick did not drive the snakes out of Ireland since there were no snakes on the island to drive out. Yeah. Hello? What? I don't even know why they had to like point that out. It's just like, I understand that they're maybe being like, well, you know, if it was common knowledge that he did that. I didn't even know he did that until I read this thing. So are people actually believing him alone, drove snakes out of Ireland by himself? Like, was that what we're going to believe here? Not like the ecosystem or the environment doesn't house cold-blooded reptiles. Like, that makes no sense. I honestly don't know what this isn't a fact. It's just they're pointing out, like, I mean, it is a fact, but it's not a fact. It's a stupid fact. It's like, I don't know why they threw this in there with everything else. Patrick did not drive the snakes out of Ireland since there were no snakes on the island to drive out. That's like, okay, dude, I don't know why I'm so stuck on this. All right, we're done after this. But what I'm saying is that, like, hey, dude, America didn't kill a fla because there were no fla-fla-flas. Like, are we kidding ourselves here? Like, I don't even know what a fla is, but we didn't kill it because it wasn't around. It didn't exist. I don't understand why they put that into this. This is Baylor University right here. Baylor.edu. All right, well, anyways, case closed. We're done. We're not looking at anything else on this. Actually, I kind of do want to see what else they have on here. Let's see. No, they got nothing else of interest here. Nothing else as dumb as that. Patrick did not drive the snakes out of Ireland since there were no snakes on the island to drive out. Yeah. Duh. Like, there were no snakes on that island. It's like, you give credit to somebody, or like you discredit the man for something that he didn't even really do, or wasn't even a big deal of. Like, that's not a fact. That's just them like correcting people's assumptions, or like getting people like, no, there weren't any snakes, so he didn't actually do that. Fun fact. You know what I mean? I guess it's more of a correction than anything else. All right, what color is bad luck on St. Patrick's Day? They don't give us like a full. They say people pinch each other for not wearing green because that's seen as bad luck, but they don't tell me which color is like bad luck on St. Patrick's Day. I would think like red would be a bad luck for St. Patrick's Day to wear. Yeah. Shamrock, Irish harp, and the leprechaun. Those are the three main symbols associated with St. Patrick. No. Listen, dude, all I know when I was growing up, all I knew about St. Patrick's Day was that we just choose the color green. You know what I mean? We basically were just like, it was just green. March is always like green to me. It's always just like, since I was a kid, it was always like, all right, it's going to be St. Patrick's Day. Get your 4-leaf clovers or your 3-leaf clovers and design and color and draw in green. Like, green is like the color of March. Like, it just is. And I don't know why that is. Or it's just like, it's just been the tradition ever since I was a kid. And that's the most I knew about it. And that there were leprechauns and pot of gold and rainbows and like all of the basic like kid-friendly stuff and Lucky Charms and whatnot. Like, that was it. That was as far as my knowledge went. But, you know what I mean? I didn't really care all that much, or I wasn't like, you know, I didn't really go in that much in depth to it. But anyways. Okay, leprechaun names. Some common names include Lucky, Goldie, Clover, Emerald, and Shamrock. Lame. Um, yeah, let's see what else. I mean, there's not really all that much else. It seems pretty easy. What color is leprechaun pee? Hold on. I didn't search that, okay? Just letting you know, listeners out there, I was scrolling down. I Googled St. Patrick's Day facts, okay? And they have like this little tab on the side that's like you can click to see what else is on there, okay? Now, it says what color is leprechaun pee? Now, I did click it, but hold on. I didn't offer that. I didn't Google that, okay? All right, anyways. Every year, the leprechaun comes in the middle of the night while we are sleeping and pees in the toilet, changing the water green. Is that like what kind of folk tale is that? Is that like what kind of a story is that to tell children? Like, if that's like a folk tale or like folklore, like who came up with that? Hey kids, you know what's gonna happen when the leprechaun comes to see you at night? Santa will come by and give you milk and cookies. The Easter Bunny will leave some eggs for you. But the leprechaun will come to your house at night and piss in your toilet and turn the water green. That's such a... What kind of a folk tale is that? What? That's not exciting in any way, shape, or form. The leprechaun's gonna come in the middle of the night and pee in your toilet while you sleep. Why is this on here? Why does this matter? I don't understand. Why did they put that on here? This is so stupid. Leprechaun. Leprechaun comes in the middle of the night while we are sleeping. They have to wait until we're asleep. They know it. They know it, and they come and pee and they piss in our toilet. And they pee in our toilet and they change the water green. So if you wake up and you have to go use the bathroom in the middle of the night, dude, just know that if that water's green, a leprechaun pissed in there, dude. That is so funny. Why? Why is that that is so hilarious. It's like everybody else like the tooth fairy will take your tooth and leave you like money. You know what I'm saying? Like they're going to give you something really worthwhile. And then the leprechaun is just going to pee in your toilet. Dude, that is hilarious. I don't know why dude, can you imagine that? It's just somebody going into your bathroom for no reason. Oh, dude, they didn't even have toilets back in the day. So this is recent. Like, they didn't have toilets back when St. Patrick was around. Like, they didn't have like that. The plumbing system wasn't as developed as it is now. So somebody came up with this and was like, you know what we should tell the kids? The leprechaun will come in the middle of the night and change the water green when they piss in it. That's brilliant. Somebody was cooking with that one. Oh my gosh, that was a great laugh. I like that. Oh man. Oh my gosh. There are only 236 leprechauns left, so hey, we'll see how that goes. Is leprechaun a gender? Ooh. Eesh. Maybe we shouldn't touch on that, but let's see. The majority were men. Well, hey, it is what it is. What color is water pee? Dude, what is with all this? All right. I think we've had enough. Long story short, man, St. Patrick went through it. That guy was a slave. He got it rough, you know what I mean? But he spread the word of Christ, you know what I'm saying? He was out there, you know what I mean? And so now we celebrate St. Patrick's Day, you know what I mean? Like you dress up in green, you go out to the club, you know what I'm saying? You party as hard as you can. Celebrate that man. That's what it's really all about, you know what I mean? He didn't save the world from snakes and whatnot. He didn't drive snakes out of Ireland, you know what I mean? Because there were no snakes on Ireland, you know, there was no snakes there. And just the main takeaway from all of this is that he didn't save Ireland from snakes. And because there were no snakes to save from. And yeah, leprechauns will come in the middle of the night and piss in your toilet and turn it green. For the kids, you know what I mean? For the kids. So, anyways, guys, that's St. Patrick's Day. That's what it's all about. I, dude, I'm gonna do that to my kids one day. If I ever have kids, I'm gonna just be like, "Look, kids, the leprechaun peed in the toilet while you were asleep." Dude, that's gonna be hilarious, dude. I'm gonna so do that. That's gonna be like. That's going to be a top 10 moment of my life. That's going to be a full circle moment. I'm going to come back and listen to this podcast and be like, dude, I can't believe I did that. Like, that's going to be a dream. That is hilarious. But anyways, guys, yeah, that's St. Patrick's Day fun facts. You know what I'm saying? I hope you guys had a great St. Patrick's Day. I guess we'll have to wait until next year to, like, to fully understand and know the lore behind all of it. But, yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening. I'll talk to you guys on next time. Thank you.